I'm honestly like shocked to my core by who I've seen in our media environment completely flip. Um, People who I genuinely like and have respect for the work that they do. So I'm like really trying very hard to keep individual names out of it. But I think you know the group that I'm alluding to. I mean, there are people who fully endorse Jill Stein who are now talking about Kamala like being better than Biden and improving agendas, and all she has to do is signal in this way and that way. And I think you made a
That's a complete misrepresentation of the left, and we can go ahead and throw this clip up here if we want to play it for the people. But what was your initial reaction to that clip that came out, Gavin?
Well, I think that it's interesting. You know, we've been talking a lot about Briahna Joy Gray, and we've been having kind of a strategic debate on this podcast. And I find it interesting that Briahna, you know, she finds herself in this at this crossroads of disagreement with a lot of her peers, as she is about to discuss, as she's about to mention. You're about to see that. But instead of having on any of those peers who disagree with her to actually discuss this, and I'm not even talking about us. I'm not even sure she's referencing us in this video. You guys can let us know.
Well, she says friends, and she probably would have said serfs and subjects if she was referring to us, you know, plebeians, Philistines, you know, something a little less charitable. So I doubt it was actually in reference to us.
So again, you guys let us know who you think that Brie is talking about, because she doesn't actually have the guts to name who she's talking about. She won't actually mention by name her colleagues who she's so disappointed in. Obviously, we know she's disappointed in us. She said that on Twitter, but
we can excuse ourselves from her mentions and our esteems. Unfortunately, we're not going to excuse her from our mentions because we love to talk about this shit. We're not going anywhere.
Exactly. But I do think that, you know, just from a integrity perspective as a commentator, and specifically Briahna, who we know is a really, really good debater. I would never take that away from Briahna, no matter what the disagreement in question is. Briahna is an excellent debater. In general, she's an excellent communicator, and I've enjoyed a lot of bad faith podcast debates. I think that's the best content that she produces. So I do find it really interesting. You know, you're at this crossroads, you're having this disagreement with a lot of colleagues, people that you even call your friend in this clip. Instead of having any of those people on your show to talk about this, to hash it out, and we'll see, maybe it happens. I hope it happens. We'd love to react to it. But instead of doing that, you're going to have on a sycophant, someone who already 100% agrees with you on this issue, so that you can go back and forth saying exactly to each other for an hour and a half. I just, is this really intellectually engaging? Even if you were already on the third party left, if you're 100% consolidated in that opinion, you really think this is engaging commentary to sit here and listen to these two people go back and forth, affirming each other's opinions and saying, oh, wow, you're so right about that. You're so right. Like, come on, let's have a little bit of a contrast. Let's actually see, you know, a battle of ideas. You know what I'm saying? I would actually enjoy that conversation. I'd actually like to see Briahna Joy Gray engage with someone like Krystal Ball or Kyle Kulinski. Again, I'm not even talking about ourselves. This isn't about, oh, we want to invite on the Bad Faith podcast. We want to debate Briahna and grow our platform.
That would never happen because her audience would melt down and start pissing and shitting simultaneously because Jimmy hates us. And that's exactly why she doesn't have somebody on that's improper to debate and talk to. And the reason that they don't have an actual conversation is because you're going to get backed into a corner. You can't have a debate about this because your strategy is to keep losing, but losing self-righteously. And they're so delusional. The third party movement right now, it's so delusional. That's why we needed to be the ones that served as a wake-up call, because we actually care about this movement, because we actually want to see third party success in our lifetime. And you can't do it this way because you're going to watch people laugh and mock the fact that the candidate that they support is bleeding credibility, even amongst people who ostensibly agree with them, right? They're going to talk about how everybody else is so shameful and wrong. They're not going to talk about how, oh my God, that's horrible for us, guys. Do you know what Gavin and I used to do when Bernie Sanders would do something that we knew was going to cost him a lot of support in the polls? We'd be like, dude,
that's like, so true.
Do you remember? This is a great example. There are two that come to mind, but the big one was one where I personally really agreed with him. I know Kyle agreed with him too, and Kyle made a video being like, Bernie, shut up. We're trying to win Iowa right now. And it was when they asked him if he thought that prisoners should have a right to vote, and he said yes. If you're in this country and you're,
He said felons. Yeah.
oh, felons, sorry,
Yeah.
felons. And then they asked him, he also clarified that he thought that prisoners should have the right to vote, because they asked him if he thought the Boston bomber should be able to vote, and he said yes. And that was Bernie being an honest, authentic politician. But all of us in the background were like, hey man, if I'm your campaign manager, I'm telling you to skirt out of that one. Get out of there. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, we've set this up for a while. Let's hear from Briahna and Sabby, unless you have anything to add, Gavin.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. And again, I don't find this particularly intellectually engaging. And I think you're 100% right, Zach. If you actually care about the third party movement and you're watching the Jill Stein ticket right now bleed support, even from commentators and channels that are theoretically sympathetic to the third party movement, yeah, the reaction would not be like, haha, see how much better we are than all these other people. Isn't this crazy how this club is increasingly niche and like everyone's heading for the exits, but we're still here. The bar closed 2 hours ago, but we're still hanging out in the basement, drinking from the freaking bottles of liquor under the cabinet. Like, isn't that awesome? Isn't this great? Can't believe everyone else went home. We're still having a freaking awesome party here. I can't believe these losers exited. Like, that's the vibe it gives. And again, there's no constructive criticism. There's no attempt to analyze the situation, to do a post-mortem of the third party movement. There's no attempt to rebuild something that actually would be potentially successful in the future. No, it's all just, let's shame everyone else for leaving the bar 2 hours ago when it closed.
100%.
I'm honestly like shocked to my core by who I've seen in our media environment completely flip.
What's crazy is she's not talking about Jimmy Dore, who these people constantly stroke off at every opportunity.
People who I genuinely like and have respect for the work that they do. So I'm like really trying very hard to keep individual names out of it. But I think the group that I'm alluding to.
Why not just say it? If everybody knows the group that you're alluding to and you're so confident, it's hysterical to you, why not just say it? Why not just call people out? Why not just have, whomever is the, most esteemed, obviously, we've been dismissed as humble subjects. We were once credible sources when we agreed with you, but now that we've had a dissent, we've been banished. But that's fine. You can have somebody on with more clout than us, that's for sure, right, to have this argument with, but instead she's got no interest in that.
I mean, there are people who fully endorse Jill Stein who are now talking about Kamala like being better than Biden and improving agendas, and all she has to do is signal in this way and that way. I think you made a really important point, which is that we prided ourselves as leftists kind of in the Bernie.
Exactly what I mean. People, she has an issue with people talking about how Kamala Harris might be better than Joe Biden. Like, that's just obviously true in a variety of ways, right? Like, she is better than Joe Biden. There's a reason why a lot of people were trying to, get Joe Biden off the Democratic ticket, because he was one of the worst freaking American presidents of our lifetime. Yeah, I think it's something to be excited about that he's no longer the candidate. And with Kamala, she has a very mixed track record. We've been relentlessly critical of her, but there is the chance that she could be better on some issues, like Israel, for example, because Joe Biden is a committed Zionist. We know that he's not going to change his position. There is a chance that Kamala could go in a different direction because she's more savvy, she's more online, she cares more about her popularity, she cares more about polling, she's more receptive to pushback and pressure, etc. Are we not allowed to talk about these things? Like, I don't think it's doing propaganda for Kamala Harris to acknowledge that, yeah, I hope she's better than Joe Biden. I think there's a chance she could be.
There's also just the ginormous elephant in the room that if you're not so in a bubble and you just talk to regular Americans out on the street, they want somebody with a functional brain to be their president. They want somebody who they can look at and make a quick judgment that they're relatively sane and functional by the metrics that we've historically judged politicians, right? Anybody that becomes American president is a psychopath. Okay, sure, guy. But I'm just telling you, in relation to
just
our
don't
other
consume political commentary if that's your opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you even interested in listening to people talk about these people if you just want to hear that they're psychopaths? Which, you're not wrong, but again, it's like, why are you even listening to political commentary?
It's like the guy that shows up to your football watch party and talks about how he thinks sports are dumb. It's like, okay, guy, well, the joke's on you because you came to my party, which is about watching the football game, right?
Right.
You're not better than everybody.
Right.
You're just a dork.
And by the way, we can do this in other contexts too. Like in the Republican Party primary, I probably said that like Nikki Haley would be a better president than Donald Trump.
100%.
Does that make me a Nikki Haley supporter?
We said almost
Obviously
everyone
not.
would be better than
I am
Trump.
so opposed to everything Nikki Haley stands for, but I can still be like, on abortion, she'd probably be better. She had a better answer than Trump did on the debate stage about abortion. She's not probably going to try to like stay in power illegally and steal an election if she loses. Like you can list things about Nikki Haley that would, that would make you sound like, oh, are you excited about Nikki Haley? Are you cheerleading for Nikki Haley? Oh, no, obviously not. But I'm saying that she's better than Donald Trump. In the same way, yeah, I can acknowledge that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are better than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Harris Walz, infinitely more exciting ticket than Harris, Biden Harris. That's just objective fact from a progressive perspective.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you guys can't objectively analyze this situation, but that's what most people want. Most people want to understand how the cookie's going to crumble. But anyway, let's take in a little more of this.
Sphere of understanding to judge candidates on the basis of the money they take and the people they are beholden to. And to look at Kamala Harris with her multi-millions from AIPAC and a bunch of other big Zionist donors and not have any skepticism of this. The same way that there are these people on the right now, of course, who are looking at Tulsi Gabbard hugged up with Rabbi Shmuley, and RFK Jr. obviously hugged up with Rabbi Shmuley and making the case that Trump is going to be good on this issue, are also crazy. But I don't have expectations of them. I have higher expectations of my friends on the left who purported to know better.
Well, you should have higher expectation of your audience, because all of the people that watch you are also, making the case that, oh, actually, you know what? Donald Trump would be better than Kamala because X, Y, and Z. And, he's actually more anti-war, and Kamala is a deranged Zionist and her husband's her AIPAC handler. Remember all that stuff?
Yeah, it's also a weird kind of excuse that she gives here why she's not going after the Jimmy Dore left. She's like, they're not my friends. Like the people that are supporting Trump now, like, oh, so I don't have to respond to those people, even though I constantly signal boost them.
That's what Jimmy used to always say.
Exactly. And it's like she was just giving Jimmy Dore credit on Twitter. She was just citing him as someone who was right about AOC. But then she talks about his faction to the left, like, oh, we shouldn't even take that seriously. Like, oh, they're just stupid people. That's crazy. They're going to Donald Trump and Tulsi Gabbard. Crazy, right? Crazy. We don't even have to talk about that. But my friends, they're the ones I'm going to admonish on Twitter. They're the ones who I'm going to scold on my podcast. They're the ones who I'm going to scold for not being lefty enough, for not being sufficiently pro Jill Stein.
And not engage with directly. Yeah, I'll just have a sycophant on who will agree with everything I say and increase the echo chamber vibe instead of actually having a conversation to hash this strategic difference out. So again, it's a really weaselly move to just be like, oh yeah, I don't have to seriously address or take seriously the Jimmy Dore left, even though I'm speaking to a member of it on this podcast, Savvy Sabs. I don't have to take those people seriously or address the rightward shift of the, formerly pro Bernie media figure. No, that's who cares? That they're just crazy, whatever. I'm just going to give it a one sentence mention and move on. But the progressives who now are considering voting Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, they're the ones who I need to devote an entire episode to. They're the ones who I need to scold on Twitter, like I said, and act, all virtuous and better than. Anyway, this was my response that we threw up on Twitter because I think this kind of summarizes all of my thoughts. I said it's really not that hard to grasp why people don't take a candidate polling at 1% 8 weeks away from a presidential election seriously. We have all come to terms with the fact that we will need to negotiate with Kamala instead of the lazy don't blame me when KH is bad attitude. I just don't understand how you could argue that you're doing anything but trying to absolve yourself at this point when 1%, guys, 1%. And again, nobody owes anybody else their vote. I'm not going to vote or shame anybody. I haven't even made up my mind what I'm going to do. I have half a mind to vote for the ham and cheese sandwich party. They're building a movement in Missouri.
And by the way, I see this all the time. People like sarcastically mocking this idea or this line. Oh, you think you're going to push Kamala to left? You think you're going to push the Democrats to the left? You freaking moron, you dumbass. You're so naive. Can you reiterate again what exactly the Green Party strategy is to me? Because every time I hear it explained, it's that, oh, we'll get 2, 3, 4, 5% of the public to threaten withholding their votes from the Democrats, and then the Democrats are going to be so scared of us that they're going to have to go to the left in order to get us back. Oh wait, what was that? Oh yeah, your strategy is also pushing Kamala to the left. You freaking dumbass.
It's okay, George Orwellian. Don't let George Orwellian get under your skin, Gavin. That's what they live for.
I'm just saying, I hear this all the time when people pushing back specifically on what we say, and they're like, "Oh, you think you're gonna push Kamala left? You think you're gonna push the Democrats left?" Bitch, that's your strategy too. That's your strategy is just push Kamala left with extra steps. That's all it is. That's all it amounts to. It's just way less serious and way less likely to ever actually happen or have any actual influence. I'm sorry, but your strategy is also to push Kamala left. Inherent in your strategy is the admission that you have no chance in winning. That's why you have to say, oh, we'll get 3% of the vote and then she'll have to move to the left. AKA, we're going to push her to the left. I'm sorry, but someone in chat correct me. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me how your strategy is not identical, just more stupid.